listeners. Hello, welcome at For The Fans show. Sorry about last week. There was a few things going on. We didn't have a show, but we're back this week, and my word, has there been football. There's been too much football, if anything.
Too much football.
Indeed. I am... Sorry, Callum. Just going to carry on. I'm joined this week by Callum. Hi, Callum.
Hello.
Too much football?
Yeah, almost, yeah.
Right.
The Manchester derby last night was not really a fitting end to some of the great games.
No, we'll touch on that a little bit later on. I'm also joined by Jack, quite the space. How you doing, Jack?
I'm good, thank you. I'm disappointed, we missed out on El Clasico, the Champions League.
Yeah.
That other one, the Europa League,
The
one no
other
one cares
one.
about.
And returning this week is Christopher Proud. It's Proudy. How you doing, Proudy?
I'm good. I haven't been on for quite a while, actually, because I missed last episode, and training for China. So that's still there. It's still in the works.
Lovely old job. Now, boys, I will not be starting with a feature this week. Can I get a sad...
I will say the last podcast on YouTube, someone did comment like, no feature, no party.
Oh, well, thank you very much
They
for
weren't
commenting on
happy.
YouTube. But luckily, don't worry, because we've got ourselves another listener email. That's right. drbenji@gmail.com for anyone that's interested. Now, who's going to be at fault this week? It was sent a while ago, so I'm sorry to Aaron who sent this in. But I'm more than happy to answer this. I'll read it out right now.
Is that his real name?
I couldn't say, but he's signed off as Aaron, so that's what we'll go with. Hello, lads. I've been a fan of the podcast for a while and tune in every week to listen. Thank you, Aaron. I don't want to sound like a bitchy mum that's had too much to drink at a PTA meeting. However, in the most recent episode, Keno...
Yeah. I would have been quite pleased if it was about Jack. Like, I've got my expectations.
I thought it was going to be about
low.
me and how much I said Clavon costs, so I had a defence written out ready, but I'll bin that now.
No.
Keno
What did I do, Ben?
claimed that, quote, open quotations, Tottenham have always struggled in the Champions League for a number of years, close quotations. As a Spurs fan, I must inform Keno that Spurs have not only been in the competition twice, once in 2011, when we were beat by then European champions Inter Milan, as well as AC Milan away from home with a half-fit Jonathan Woodgate at the back before a quarter-final exit to Real Madrid, and again this season. The reality is that Tottenham have only struggled once in the Champions League. Keep up the good work, lads. Long live the feature. Sorry,
can I
Aaron,
clarify
no feature this week.
what I think I meant by
Keno.
saying that?
Thank you for your email, Aaron. Keno, right to reply.
Can I clarify what I think I meant when I said that? I probably was... I mean, I'm not going to go back to the recording before we continue with this show. I think I might have meant Wembley instead of sort of in Europe.
I mean, that's a
than
very weak argument.
That's not good. I think...
Well, no, because they were in
courts,
the... They were,
order in the-
didn't
I
they
think
play...
ruling Aaron 1, Keno 0. There's no, that's not good. That's not enough. That wasn't enough.
I'm being less confrontational with Aaron this time than I was with Jay. So I'm hoping that I won't get another one.
Yeah, well, again, if you've got any issues with this week's show, this is
I feel like
Proudy's
people
back
are
on.
gonna
But if
go
you've
for
got
it.
any issues with me, just,
I feel like people can go for all the
let
past
Ben know.
shows now
Yeah.
with like a fine-tooth comb looking for errors by you.
Indeed.
I mean,
drbenji@gmail.com.
I quite like that, our listeners are listening sort of carefully.
They are listening. They're certainly listening.
Yeah.
That's a shock to us all. Right then, boys, we're going to kick things off then with the FA Cup semi-finals. 2 games over the weekend, both with a number of goals. That was nice to see. Sometimes these semi-finals can be a little bit drab, a little bit tetchy, but we'll start with the first one. 6 goals in it, Jack. One of the best games of the season, I dare say.
Yeah, it was. It was great. I've got a confession to make here.
Go on.
So I was playing Foot Champions at the start of this game, and then I just had it on in the background. I just had it on my second monitor, and I actually quit my Foot Champions game to watch the game after the Willian goal.
Because it became so good.
Because I was like, this is going to be a good game. You could tell. I was worried it was going to be one of those FA Cup games.
It was one of those.
Every team's are just a little bit scared to go behind, especially with kind of, I guess, it being Chelsea v Spurs.
They're often quite cagey.
You don't expect it to be a game where there's 6 goals, I don't think.
No, I think that's probably fair enough.
And the goals kind of flooded in, didn't they, early on?
Of course, it was the game that we've all sort of been looking forward to, isn't it, Proudy? You know, the 2 teams that have been top of the Premier League have looked only the best 2 teams in the league this year based on their league positions. Did it go the way you thought it'd go? I guess we didn't do predictions beforehand, so what did you make of the game as a whole?
I think it's definitely one of the more memorable semi-finals. I mean, other than Portsmouth's ones when we were there, but I mean, I remember catching up with the game because I think I saw the first half an hour, then I had to come back from Portsmouth. But I caught up and I was like thinking, I kind of do wish I watched the whole game because it did have that sort of feeling that both teams wanted to make the final. I mean, I think we mentioned this weeks ago about Pochettino not really being a cup manager. And then again, he's got Tottenham to the semi-final. And they actually did play slightly better than Chelsea. I mean, I'm not going to go all Jermaine Genius here and say that they were the better team. But, you know, I think to see a game like that, especially at Wembley, where it can be a cagey affair, it was refreshing to see, I think. But
yeah, it was refreshing to see. It's nice to see two teams openly kind of go for it. And the interesting thing was, of course, Keno, that Chelsea started without Eden Hazard and without Diego Costa and went with William and Michy. And William put in a great performance, but were you surprised that Conte changed it in that manner? He didn't necessarily need to.
I wasn't surprised by the fact that he'd left Diego Costa out because up until, I mean, really the game after that, this game, the one they've just played in the Premier League this week, he'd been out of form, hadn't scored in 5. His body language wasn't great, and it particularly against United at Old Trafford in the game before, which we spoke about, you know, his body language was really poor. And I don't think that was a surprise. I have a feeling that Conte may have left Hazard out sort of almost to detract from the fact that he might have been dropping Costa for footballing reasons and then sort of leaving Hazard out for more kind of resting him. Do you know what I mean?
It made it look like a group decision rather than a sort of singling out.
Yeah, and it kind of did work out to be... It worked out in his favour tactically. I mean, it could have gone wrong because Spurs, as Proudy said, and as Jermaine Genius sort of tried to argue, I don't disagree with him on this. I think Spurs dominated much of the possession, and for probably about 70 minutes of the game, really, they were also creating chances. It wasn't like they kind of had loads of sterile possession and were not sort of hurting Chelsea. There were quite a lot of times where Chelsea were kind of desperately camped in their own sort of half and around their own 18-yard box because Spurs were playing really well. And it was being able to bring on those two, obviously Hazard more than Costa, but both to an extent, that really sort of changed the game. And it kind of it made the decision that Conte had taken look sort of, you know, like the correct one. These things, you know, are always judged in hindsight. But Hazard changed the game for sure when he came on.
What is it, Jack, about Wembley and Spurs? We kind of tried to touch on it with his defence earlier. It's been announced today as we record that they're going to play all their home games at Wembley next year. Their record, I think they've won 1 in their last sort of 9 or something.
Yeah,
their record is awful.
They have the record for most defeats at the ground. I don't know if that includes new and old Wembley, but I think they've lost like 7 or 8. And I think they've lost now their last 7 FA Cup semi-finals.
They've not won there since I think 2008.
Yeah, so it's not great.
I mean, I think the issue for them this game was that for such a large spell of it, especially in the first half, they were the better side. They bounced back very well. You know, it's quite testing, I think, when you concede from kind of a free kick within the first kind of 5 or 6 minutes.
Great free kick, by the way. That William free kick.
It was so good by William, and obviously that's great for William because he's a player who he hasn't been playing that much this year. And actually, I think last year he was one of Chelsea's kind of beacons in what was a not such great season.
Definitely.
But actually, I felt for Spurs a little bit because I thought they were on top in the game after Kane got his goal. They had a few chances, and then of course Son.
Bizarre
playing a left
decision.
wing back. I feel like that was the weirder decision, if I'm honest.
Let me tell you, he won't be playing there when at Real Madrid. Let me tell you that much for free. He'll be playing on that left-hand side in a more advanced role.
We should shout out, because Jack mentioned it just then, that the finish from Harry Kane for the first Spurs goal was like it was just so sort of refreshing to see such like an original kind of goal score. Do you know what I mean? But we sort of talk about this a little bit. But this kind of speed of thought that he had to kind of direct that on goal and kind of duck underneath it was really like interesting and like fun to see.
Yeah, the ball in wasn't particularly good, and he made very well of what was quite a scrappy delivery. It was sort of whipped in by Eriksen, and on one hand, you say it's Christian Eriksen, he probably means it, but for Kane to sort of backhead it into the far corner is, you know, you're not trying that in training. Let me put it that way. That's not the sort of thing you'd go for. You mentioned Harry Kane though. For me, apart from his goal, I thought Chelsea kept him very, very quiet.
I think it's difficult. This is where when sort of people talk about, you know, what Spurs need to do next season for instance, to kind of to win the league. I mean, they may win it this year still, but when people sort of talk about, you know, what they need to strengthen, what areas do they need to sign players in, it was watching this game against a very, very good defence this season, where I thought not necessarily they need a player who can sort of replace Kane per se, or you know, start in front of him, but more like a kind of attacking threat in that sort of central area. Because I know Ali is Pochettino's tried to get Ali up behind Kane more this year, and obviously his goals record's sort of been testament to that. But I feel like those kind of, particularly him and Eriksen, still like to float sort of in between the lines. And I felt like they could have done, obviously Vincent Janssen hasn't worked out, they could have done with another sort of threat up there, maybe to go with Kane as a partner, to kind of...
Well, Dele Alli's done a little bit of that as like a left forward
has.
With Kane to his right.
Yeah, but I still feel like Ali isn't a pure forward. He's still like a kind of attacking midfielder.
So that has been done more out of necessity than when he has played alongside Kane.
It's in the way that, like,
exactly.
we talk about it, right? Like, Chelsea had the option to play Michy this weekend. It was like, he's such a different striker to Costa.
Is he a mate? Is he Ben?
Michy? Well, yeah, we tweet regularly.
That's Shuayi.
Sure, I'll go with Michy. But they could play. They played him, and he's a very different striker to Costa. Like, it actually turns out really that Chelsea don't operate as well without a Costa figure. So that obviously that's why Conte is so sort of consistent with that selection. But I totally agree that when Harry Kane is playing in this sort of game, and as good as Dele Alli is, you need someone with that sort of instinctive idea to finish. And that's something that Spurs don't have. And Janssen's certainly not had it this year. We've seen it from Ali, but like I get what you're saying, that he scored goals, he plays well behind Kane, but he's not that. You're right, you know, he's not that striker. He's never going to be compared to like an Aguero ever. So he hasn't got that sort of ability.
Yeah, and with that in mind, like I think sort of when and Spurs may need to do this when they.
I think they will. By the way, I think this is the summer they will definitely buy. Like I don't know who they would get. There's sort of talk. There's like the classic sort of six strikers that get talked about, isn't there? You get like Higuain's always talked about, Aubameyang, Lacazette, Morata is the one this summer. It feels like there's always these strikers that are named, and I think Spurs might be in the market.
I'm still waiting for them all to sign for Liverpool.
But you see, I think it will have to be a player who will be okay with sort of playing out wide, because I feel that Harry Kane is still the number one striker at that club, and he should be, because he scored 20 plus goals last 3 seasons for them. He's England's best striker, could go on to be one of the best in Europe, and he's the number one at that club. But there is definitely a case of bringing in another top quality finisher, like a pure finisher, and that player may have to play maybe to the left of a front three or something, throughout next season, and then maybe could play him next to Kane as a partnership, say, if needed. So they've got to be very careful with the player they get.
I'm thinking about strikers that would fit the Spurs system and the way they play. There's a guy at Liverpool that they don't really want, that they might be interested in for 20-25 million. Like I'm talking about Daniel Sturridge, by the way, to clarify.
20.
I thought he was Ings. Sorry,
he might be the sort of. Is Danny Ings injured again, by the way?
Well, no, he's been out injured for ages. But did you see he's swam 21 miles this week using only his upper body?
God, I've not done that for weeks, so yeah, that's impressive. Can I say, Jackie? He said he didn't do it in one sitting.
Oh no!
All right,
So,
okay. He did it over the course of like a long time. He hasn't just been swimming the channel while he's been injured. No, you've thrown me completely there. No, but Sturridge might be the kind of player he can play sort of out wide-ish, can cut in. He's a different striker to Harry Kane, is what I'm getting at, and he'll be available. And he can't be expecting to start at a team right now. I feel like.
It's funny because maybe, I mean, you mentioned Aubameyang. The Aubameyang of maybe 2 or 3 years ago might have been perfect for that, because
just before the Dortmund move, you're right. Like that's just that time.
Because he's now obviously got used to playing as a number 9 for Dortmund, and so probably wouldn't want to move back out wide. But that kind of player, Kylian Mbappe type. I mean, he probably won't go to Spurs because of the money, but
it's a lot of money.
That sort of wide forward could be useful for them.
I can see that. It's what they need. Arguably, Son does that a little bit, Browdy. But is there a player that you've had in mind while we're talking about this, or do you not think that's necessarily the problem?
No, I think it's not the sort of player that it's whether they can attract him. I don't know if Spurs can still attract him, because they get into the Champions League like pretty consistently, but can do? No,
well, I'll tell you what, Aaron will be emailing in technically consistently, not necessarily true. But more recently, though, you're right, they have been.
Yeah, I think it's just you look at these teams like Man United have done it, Man City obviously with the money, but I mean a team like Spurs, who obviously have a good team, but I don't think they still have that structure there to attract the best players into their side. I mean, they couldn't qualify for the Champions League consistently, but you know,
I think
you're
the
not
new
going to have
stadium might change.
Yeah,
that.
maybe the stadium will help. When they build the stadium, maybe that will help. I think.
Do you think playing at Wembley is an advantage for them this year? I feel like players will want to play at Wembley for like a year. It's quite a nice place to play, isn't it? Like I don't know.
Yeah, and we don't know their plans after that, but I feel like, you know, Spurs with a new stadium, consistently in the Champions League, in London as well, like challenging at the top of the Premier League. There's no reason why, you know, the biggest players in Europe, with the right money was offered, wouldn't want to go there. So I think the future's just sort of bright for them in that regard.
I'll say now, just to finish up on Tottenham, then we'll kind of move on to Chelsea's successes. But I think that okay, let's put it this way: I will not be surprised if next season we see Pochettino change up what they've played this year and go for a far more kind of not rotated, because I think the consistency that Spurs have is really nice, but a far more rotated idea that they play two out-and-out wingers. They've got Son on one side. The reason I say this is because Wembley's pitch is huge, and one of the biggest problems for Spurs is that ordinarily they play quite a narrow formation. They've got the fullbacks bombing on, sure, but you want these guys who are stretching teams, especially on a pitch as big as Wembley, and they've got to get used to that. I'll be surprised if Pochettino doesn't have Spurs not only sort of playing a lot of pre-season games there, but training there occasionally, or at least having a set up maybe at their training ground, the size of that Wembley pitch, to get them used to it. Because I don't know the exact stats, but I wonder if White Hart Lane is smaller than Wembley by like a considerable margin, and that's making a big impact on the way they play and the way they can be stretched. And they can't be stretched at White Hart Lane necessarily, because their home record at White Hart Lane this year has been fantastic. Yeah. Whereas at Wembley, it's been really indifferent. Of course, they've always played like slightly better sides at Wembley. We should kind of preface by saying that. But I wonder if we'll see Pochettino play a different team.
Those stats are a little bit skewed by the fact that they've either played like, you know, cup semi-finals or finals or Champions League games there. So yeah.
So Chelsea go through, and I've got to say, when it matters, they don't have to turn it on. That goal from Matic, like quite late on, is just
ruthless.
Dearie me. There was that moment that Hazard and Costa came on, and you always had this idea of they're probably going to win now. Like I don't know. For me, watching it, I thought this is going to be the moment where the game changes, and it did. Hazard obviously comes on, gets his goal, and Matic 5 minutes later gets his. When the game's sort of poised at 2-2, looks like it's going to be quite a tricky half an hour. But to be able to bring those two players on and make a big difference, like we talk about stylistically, Spurs are unable to change it. Jack, Chelsea found a way.
They did, and I've got to be honest. My favourite moment of this game is Zuma's reaction to Matic's goal. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a proper kind of fanboy, like, oh my gosh, he's done that in training a few times, but I never thought I'd see it in a match. I think for Chelsea, it was a good performance. I kind of feel like Spurs played a little bit into their hands, if I'm honest, playing the 5 at the back system. I think that benefited Chelsea actually a little bit, the fact that Son was kind of left a little bit exposed out on the left-hand side. Obviously, I feel like for Conte, there would have been some serious questions asked if they do go out this game and Hazard and Costa both haven't played. Yeah. But it worked wonders for them, really. I feel like Chelsea, they're a team, when you look across that kind of starting 11, it's full of players who have played in FA Cup semi-finals before. And, a lot of them are familiar with this kind of match. And so I feel like that definitely benefited them. Perhaps not all the players in their team, but you look through that Chelsea, so that is a team of players who have been to numerous finals and semi-finals. And I do wonder if a little bit of the occasion got to Spurs with just a few of their players.
Yeah, you wonder if the players are so aware, of like the stadium, that they know now that there's sort of this idea that we're not as good here, and I do wonder if it plays into them a little bit, and they are worrying about it.
And I think that could kind of work both ways as well, because I think it's when a team plays, but like Chelsea,
I feel like Chelsea have been successful at Wembley as well.
Yeah,
I feel like when they play at Wembley, they always do quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the stats, and
I can think of 3 times recently that they've
won
there.
10 fixtures at the new Wembley Stadium, which is second only to Manchester United.
Okay, that's compared to Spurs who've won 1. That's quite a difference.
And I think although it wasn't the same Chelsea team that had won those games that was playing on Saturday, you could sort of tell, and this comes back to the kind of the discussion and sort of argument that Shearer and Genius had after the game, was that I felt Chelsea kind of knew that they could win the game at some point. Like they were defending sort of for their lives at certain points in the game, but I think it wasn't sort of out of desperation. They kind of knew that they could win this game at any point. And when Hazard came on, you sort of saw the players kind of think, yeah, right, we've got our kind of leader on the pitch, as with Costa as well. And they were just ruthless to take their chances when they needed to. And so I think kind of circling to kind of conclude this, circling back to that conversation that was had on TV about who kind of deserved to win, I think Chelsea did deserve it because they sort of were able to, despite Spurs' pressure, find a way to kind of to win that game.
Yeah.
The fourth goal, it was a fantastic goal from Matic, but it was kind of, the game had been won, I think, by that point at 3-2, so it kind of flattered them a bit.
Yeah, the final 10 minutes became very kind of routine. Both teams were kind of like, okay, yeah, fine, we're done. Right, let's move on then to the next game. The day after, it was Arsenal City. And going into this, I think Arsenal fans were probably a little bit nervous, but based on what a few of them were saying, they preferred City out of the three teams they could have got. It's like they were most happy.
I think that's fair enough as well. When you look at the league table, when you look at form, City are very beatable at the moment.
Yeah. I think it's strange, though, that Arsenal fans are sort of relishing an opportunity against City at any time. It's kind of is a little bit peculiar. But they played, I thought they defended very well, which we haven't seen out of Arsenal for a while. They've always looked a little bit hazardous, but they look good in this game, Proudy. I think for an Arsenal side that have lacked a little bit of confidence recently, this is a huge win, not only just for their cup progression, but at the end of the season, they've got a big job to get back in the top four as well.
No, I was going to say, I wanted to give a shout out to Rob Holding because, I mean, for a game of that magnitude to play as well as he did, I thought he was probably the standout player in that defence.
He was very good.
Yeah, he was very good. And, I mean, what is he, 21, 22? Something like, he's very young still.
He needs to be a holding midfielder, doesn't he, though, really?
Is that
is that just for his name? Is that why?
Yeah.
There was an attempt at a joke, though. Let's look past it.
No, he does.
Continue.
It's not a joke. It's just
No, I think it was very intriguing as well for Wenger to also stick with the formation which they tried out at Middlesbrough, because I mean, I think he's always struck me as a coach who just sticks to the same formation but just moves the players into the formation rather than changes it. And I think he's been playing three at the back for the last few games. And to do it against
the
City,
Middlesbrough game.
Yeah, and to do it against City as well, who we know like to dominate the ball. I mean, took a lot of balls, and I mean it's paid off as well. And they're in the final, but yeah, I think it was very interesting to see how well they defended. I mean, I think they defended very well. So
the three at the back thing is interesting because I think I heard an interview with Wenger. I don't know if it was after this game. It could have been after the game they won against Leicester just yesterday or Wednesday, when he was like, "Oh, this three at the back's really kind of, it's really working well." And it was almost like he was sort of saying, "Oh, I didn't know it could be this good."
Do you feel like now though that it's quite obvious that the Middlesbrough game was a bit of a whatever, and he was trialing it for this game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I almost think I also think he's kind of clutching at straws a bit as to how to sort of get a reaction from his players, and not so much a reaction in a kind of like a body language, like mental thing, but to find a system that kind of just can sort of counteract other teams and catch them by surprise in a bid to win matches. And I think this kind of worked against City because obviously they played with Aguero as the lone striker.
Yeah.
And the back three can kind of work quite well against that. I think when we've seen when teams are playing a back three and they lose, it's when you either have sort of a strike partnership or you find some way to sort of overload the space between the wing backs and the two wide centre backs, or isolate the kind of the sweeper, the central one. That could be with two strikers. It could be with really good wingers. And City play with Aguero on his own. They've obviously got a lot of players buzzing in and around him, but the back three of Arsenal were able to keep him sort of pretty quiet other than the goal, I thought, for the game. To be fair, though, there was that, we should probably talk about this. I'd be interested to see what you guys thought about the disallowed goal that Aguero did score and then Sterling sort of tapped over the line, right?
Yeah, well, is it given because they think the ball's gone out? Yeah, which I think it was shown on a replay that it was pretty marginal. I think, but it wasn't out.
Assistant referees.
Well, yeah, there's obviously a lot of talk for that. Can we talk about the Aguero goal though? Because at the time I was like really critical of Czech, right? And I've literally just started just quickly watching it back now. Obviously the ball through from Yaya Toure is a really good ball. Aguero gets a little touch on it just to set the pace off it.
Takes a big touch, doesn't
and then knocks it over him. Well, that's interesting you say that because the first touch is very good to bring it down. The second touch is normal, and it's kind of Czech's ready for it. And then all of a sudden, there's this big touch that comes in from Aguero, which leaves Czech thinking, should I be coming out for this? And then he's caught in this like situation where he's not going to get there, and he's almost not even aware where he's in his goal, and Aguero taps it over him. And at the time, I thought there's loads of goalkeepers that would have done better there, but I do think that the touch from Aguero is almost surprising to check, looking back at it, because it's such a big touch from a player like Aguero that is kind of known for his tight control, and it just seems to catch him out, and he sort of hurries and thinks, oh, dear me, I've got to get there, and doesn't quite do. I guess that, by which I mean, you'd maybe expect sort of Lloris, De Gea, Neuer, these sort of top level keepers to be out sharper, but that again could just be sort of an age thing.
I think the issue for Cech actually is he kind of does a bit of the hokey cokey. He kind of goes in and out. He starts coming towards it and then he backs off, and it's very difficult to shift your momentum. And I don't know if it's that he's been caught out, more so he's just got his body shape completely wrong. I just rewatched it now just for my own benefit, and you can see him backpedaling as Aguero comes into shot before he takes his touch.
Yeah,
and I feel like he's already at the edge of his box. He's already kind of committed to coming out. And maybe it does come into his age a little bit, the fact, like a Cech a few years ago perhaps does come marauding out for that and just, in that 50-50 kick.
He's never been that kind of keeper, though, has he?
He hasn't, but I feel like it's like almost something that's necessary for goalkeepers to do in the modern game, particularly with, big balls like this one over the top.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like you can be critical of it, but he's saved Arsenal's ass so many times in other games over the last season or two that...
I think it's a position, it's strange, isn't it? It's a position that for the last 10 years... Arsenal fans have kind of been like, because they've obviously had Chesney and Almunia and keepers like this, sort of post-Lehmann, and they've never really had a guy they fully trust. And I think last year, Cech was the first time in a long time they felt like that. But this year, I think there's been the occasional game where he's not looked as sort of cool, calm and collected as you'd want him to be as a goalkeeper in the Premier League. He looks a little bit flustered. And there's a few Arsenal fans I've seen it, like they're quite critical of him. But again, who comes in to replace him? It's one of those positions, isn't it?
He's only as good as his defence, though. I mean, he was playing. What was it, the Chelsea team he played in? He had John Terry. Oh, well, I mean, it was who was it first? John Terry, Carvalho,
Gallas,
Gallas. Yeah, it was a very good defence. And then the second time when Mourinho came back, he had Terry, Cahill. Those sort of players. So, players that you could trust. But then you come in and you've got, Koscielny. And we've noticed that every time Koscielny comes off, Arsenal collapse. I don't know what it is. I mean, they've got Gabriel, Holden.
Mustafi's there as well.
Mustafi, who's not been as good as I thought he could have been.
He's barely played this year, Proudy. You know what I mean? Mustafi.
Genius. I do think that brings up a point for Arsenal, though. I do wonder how many of their problems over the last few years have been systematic rather than down to the personnel.
Yeah,
I do. Wonder
that's the whole.
I think people say that's that, as Ben I think was about. So that's the Wenger argument.
Yeah, that's the whole Wenger thing, isn't it? Like, is it the system? Is it the players? What is the big problem? And then, again, if they the final now, then Chelsea Arsenal. I mean, we'll come to it. Of course, obviously Arsenal went on to win the game. Sanchez scored a bit of a scrappy goal at the end of what was quite an enthralling game. But who do we see taking that then at Wembley in a few weeks' time? Because it's close. You if Arsenal play to their potential, they're pretty good. And Chelsea, we've seen, haven't been completely immovable this season. So we'll go along the line a little bit. We'll start with you, Proudy. What do you think this game? A few weeks.
I mean, I'm going to keep saying what I keep saying every week. Arsenal are going to win it, I think, and then Wenger's going to sign a new contract. And that's going to be the announcement. At the moment, he lifts the cup and then he does that interview of I'm signing a new 2-year deal, and then cries from Arsenal fans are heard all around the country.
I'd like to think they're about to lift the trophy and Wenger shoves him out the way, just lifts up a clipboard with his contract on it. Yeah. Goes, I'm back.
I thought you were going to say he lifts up his shirt and underneath it just says Wenger in on it.
Yeah, it just says one more year. Jack?
I think Chelsea might batter Arsenal,
Oh. Well, we've got a friend, haven't we?
To say that? Have
you seen Mick's tweets, Jack? We've got a friend called Mick on Twitter.
I haven't, no. Is he more nervous than him? He's a very pessimistic Chelsea fan most of the time.
This year he's been pretty optimistic, but he likes to sort of rib Arsenal. Before the City Arsenal game, he was like, I really hope. He's a Chelsea fan. He was like, I really hope we get Arsenal, because I think he likes to punish them. So I think he's quite confident against Arsenal with the way the Chelsea team sets up. But where do you see it going, sorry?
I see Chelsea scoring 3 or 4 past Arsenal, and it being one of those games where Ozil just goes missing. Sanchez cries and walks off the pitch, refusing to play.
Dear.
Troops is famine and blooding from the sideline.
Okay, right. So
Arsenal Fan TV delete their YouTube channel. And,
it'll be a disaster. So we've got one for Arsenal, one for Chelsea. Keno.
I think the problem for Arsenal is that Chelsea, will still be very motivated for this game. So either they've fucked up the league title and will be really, really wanting, Conte will never forgive them for that, and they will want to batter Arsenal to try and get a trophy in the season, or they will have won the league and Conte will be battering them again to try and win a domestic double in his first season. So I think they'll be really up for this. I mean, it's the FA Cup final, of course they're going to be, but what I mean is there's not going to be a sort of a scenario where Arsenal may find a slightly less motivated Chelsea for whatever reason.
They're not going to get a complacent Chelsea, whatever happens. Yeah. It's that sort of situation, isn't it? Yeah,
and so I think with that in mind, I think it's more likely that Chelsea will win. It's going to be tight because I think it's very rare that you see sort of a final that is played in the same way that the semi-final was between Spurs and Chelsea. So I think it will be tight, but Chelsea will win. Edge it, maybe 2-1.
Interesting. So we've got 2 Chelsea, 1 Arsenal.
I think there'll definitely be goals, by the way, because I mean Chelsea haven't kept a clean sheet in 13 games or something. So goals are likely.
I think I've changed my mind about 3 times listening to you 3 there. I think Arsenal might just do it. I think it might be a Sanchez day. A Sanchez kind of day. We talked about Chelsea being like an informed side at Wembley. Of course, Arsenal have won the FA Cup there twice in like recent memory, so they've obviously got experience of that. I don't know. I think it'll be a bit of a Hazard v Sanchez kind of day, and it'll be the top players playing to their best, and it'll be who performs alongside them. And I think Arsenal. The problem for Arsenal this year has arguably been there's not enough consistent players in the Arsenal team to make them a threat in the league throughout a full season. But on their day, you look at players like Oxlade-Chamberlain that can perform above and beyond. Even Giroud can, Ozil of course can, and Sanchez spearheading that in what might be, and I'm sorry Arsenal fans, might be his final game for them, and wants to leave them with, at least we achieved something, right, guys? A bit like that. And I don't know, I think Chelsea will win the league, but I don't think they're going to get complacent, Chelsea. I just think there won't be as much in it for Chelsea as there will be for Arsenal, who really feel like their backs are being up against the wall this year for Arsenal. I think this is the one chance they get to kind of redeem themselves. I should clarify as well, as much as I think Chelsea will win the league, I don't think Arsenal will get in the top 4. So this will be their kind of save our season moment a little bit. And I think they'll do it. So as for the fans, we kind of think it'll be a draw, 2-2. Penalties then, I guess. And then that's
Golden goal should come back.
That's the lottery. I'd love golden goal back, I think.
I was watching I watch a lot of hockey, but I was watching the Hockey Plus, and they have it where if it's all even, they just play like periods repeatedly until next goal wins.
Oh, I like the idea of that. I just think it's just start taking players off every 5 minutes.
I heard that the other day.
Take another player off until it's 1v1. That'd be good.
In overtime in the regular season in hockey, they go from 5v5 to 3v3.
Yeah,
and it just becomes like back and forth, like end to end.
Yeah. Well, they should go from 11 down to like 7, but then back up to 11 again. So you take however many off, but then you can bring them back on every sort of 2 minutes. That'd be good. I'd like that.
I feel like you've overcomplicated it there.
Yeah, I've ruined football. So there we are then. We've decided we don't know. It'll be a 2-2 draw at this stage. Right, there was obviously quite a lot of Premier League action. We're going to start off with a little bit of the weekend. Well, it's not necessarily the weekend, but games that have happened recently involving the relegation candidates, and then more so the top 6 conundrum. So we'll start off then. At the weekend, it was Bournemouth 4, Middlesbrough 0. Not the greatest result Borough have ever had, Jack. It's not.
I mean, Ramirez's sending off in this is one of my favourite moments of Borough's season.
Thing I've ever seen. Oh,
it's so stupid. I don't think he actually touches him with the second yellow card, but it's just the fact that he dives in there and gets the straight red.
He's decided he wants to be on a beach, so he's gone. You enjoy your battle because I'm not going to be a part of it.
I always feel a bit weird about Ramirez because, of course, he got injured in the playoff. Was it a few years ago in the playoff semi-final? He got a really bad injury.
Yeah.
And so when he puts in dodgy tackles, I'm starting thinking you were on the receiving end of one of them once upon a time, and now you're acting like a bit of a dickhead.
I must say, Jack, I think if you're South American, it doesn't actually matter if you're on the receiving end, because statistically, as a South American, you will have been on the end of those tackles quite a lot. So you're just, and so he's sort of within his culture just to hand them out when he can.
I still feel like it was just so needless. I mean, I feel bad for Borough. I think that there's some stat they've scored 3 goals this calendar year. It's some. I want to find out the exact stat, but it's not a lot of goals this calendar year. I mean, nice try. Maybe see you in 2 years.
This result I think relegated them. I know they beat So while we're covering this, they did beat Sunderland 1-0 last night at the Riverside. But
it's a bit late, and I mean, it's Sunderland.
Yeah, exactly. So it was the one game that wouldn't really help them out at all.
It gives them a bit of a lifeline, though. Like, they had to win it. They had to 6 points, 4 games. I mean, it all kind of rests on Hull, doesn't it? Do Middlesbrough and Hull, by any chance, play each other? I hope they do.
Oh no, because
they
Hull already played Middlesbrough in February, I think.
Yeah, no, it was April. They've been 4-2.
Was it April? Was that? Oh, wasn't that long ago?
Jack,
Borough have scored 7 goals.
You saved yourself an email there, my friend. You saved yourself an email.
It's still not a great total, really, for how many games? Like
this is good. We are
11. No,
sure
15 games.
Our listeners are making sure that we don't become.
I fact checked here now. I'm sat there.
Jack's just saying things now. Let's basically become the Google podcast. Proudy, my worry for both middle, like we talked about yesterday. So last night, obviously they beat Sunderland, gives them a little bit of a lifeline. I think we kind of agreed a few weeks ago that we both think these two teams will go down. I don't see either of them coming back up, like first time around. With the way it is right now, with the way the Championship is, it's a bit of a mess in that top sort of 12. You think about the teams that are going to be all guns blazing next season that will still be in the Championship. There's 3 or 4 in the playoffs. Callum Keane's Aston Villa. You dare say Norwich will be back as well. So you could probably say that next year, 5 from the top 8 in the Championship will be competing again. I think that's I mean, I know Middlesbrough have been there recently. For Sunderland, by the way, I think that is a huge culture shock, and that is going to be very, very difficult to get out of there. I dare say Sunderland might be the sort of team that dropped down to come all the way back up, because at the moment they look bereft of confidence. But yeah, sorry, Paddy. Do you see either of them having that bounce back effect?
I mean, I'm going to disagree with you about what you said about Sunderland. I think it will be Middlesbrough. I think Middlesbrough will go down again next year. Like, the way that they're going. Like, I don't think it's certain, but I mean, you can't be a football team who just don't score that often. Like, it's so boring to watch as well. Like, it must be demotivating as well for the Middlesbrough fans to be going away every week thinking, I mean, it'd just be great to see a goal. I mean, it'd just be
Just on that, Friday, Middlesbrough have scored 2 less goals than Sunderland.
Yeah. Oh well, I know. I think both teams. No, I think I've just noticed that being Middlesbrough, I think. Nowadays,
that'd be a good documentary.
Yeah, I was going to say a few weeks ago they were on like 13 goals, and they must have scored a few out of somewhere. But
that's what ruined my stat.
Yeah.
We're now annoyed at stats because you're never going to be pulled up about them.
No, it's just it's sorry. Looking at the team as well, like looking at the Middlesbrough team that they have at the moment. I mean, they don't look like they would even do that well in the Championship, in my opinion.
I kind of disagree, just because they did get promoted last year from the Championship, and they look very good. A lot of those players, I feel like it's just a bridge too far for a lot of them. I feel like they fall into a similar bracket to the likes of Burnley and even Hull, who not that many years ago went down. I think they're the kind of team that can settle. You look at a team like Fulham, who went down. They really struggled to keep hold of their key players. They had a few players who were aging. That really hindered their ability to kind of stay in the Championship. You look at Norwich, when they had the double relegation down to League One, they were in a similar situation where they had a lot of ageing players, and they actually didn't have that many players who had seen them get promoted originally. I feel like for Middlesbrough, the expectation this year is that they're going to get relegated.
You come back in a minute, Proudy. Keep going, Jack. You come back in a minute.
I feel like for Sunderland, the big issue is going to be there's a lot of those players there who haven't played in the Championship before. They're not going to want to play in the Championship. I don't think either of them will go down again, to be honest. I feel like there's quite a few weaker teams in the Championship now who are kind of emerging from League One, who are going to be battling year on year.
Yeah, maybe not go down, but I mean, suddenly find themselves in a relegation battle in the Championship. I think that's not necessarily impossible for them. Proudy, come back though.
No, I was going to say, like, I know you said a lot of the players that Middlesbrough have like got them up, but it becomes a confidence thing. Because if they come back from the Premier League being whipped week in, week out, and they come back to the Championship thinking, "Oh, we'll piss this league," and then get beaten 3 times in a row, then that becomes a problem, because then they're like, "Oh, maybe this league was a lot harder than we thought," and then it becomes a struggle.
Sorry, Proudy. Keno?
Hello, everyone.
Did that happen to Villa a little bit?
We'll piss this league.
The thing is for Borough though is I don't feel like they've actually been battered. I know they got beaten 4-0.
They've got no. The thing is though, they've got no Karanka now, which is one change. They also, when they got promoted, now again, I'm asking for Borough fans to email me here, but from what I remember of their promotion season, they weren't like playing in the way that, say, Bournemouth did when they were tonking everyone and playing really free-flowing football. They were playing in a not dissimilar fashion to how they're playing in the Premier League this season. They're very solid. They ground out a lot of results, And they've kind of taken that style to the Premier League. It's just that they're playing better teams now, so they haven't been able to score as much. Their defence has still been, maybe not until in the past few weeks, but at least for the first half of the season under Karanka, it was pretty solid. And that was the thing that a lot of people were saying might keep them up. And so they've kind of got that still solidity. They don't have Karanka. They won't have that momentum. I think for both those teams, I mean, Sunderland, I think, resemble the Villa a little bit more because they've had years of chronic sort of mismanagement and will probably take a year minimum to sort of rebuild and to kind of to get ready for another challenge. I think Borough, it's interesting to see whether they keep hold of Agnew or if they try and appoint a manager maybe similar to Karanka to try and...
Pardew's available.
He is available and back in the northeast.
Which... on that, I just had a quick look. Middlesbrough, when they went up, because obviously we were chatting about whether they can bounce back, when they went up, they scored the 8th amount of goals. They went up second, but they were the 8th highest scorers in the division. Yeah. Like that to me, like the problems have kind of gone in to the Premier League. It makes you wonder why they only kind of went with Negredo as their only kind of option. I know they had like Jordan Rhodes and whatnot, but they've not really played him at all, have they? Did he even go out on loan? I bet.
He's at Wednesday now.
So he left as well. So
January.
A team that already didn't score a massive amount of goals, I should say, just to clarify, best defensive record. So they clearly went into the Premier League thinking that is what will get us through, and that is really dangerous to do that as a Championship team going up. That's, in actual fact, it's quite naive to do that, to think that you could have the same sort of defensive solidity in the Premier League coming from the Championship. It's a completely different kettle of fish. So I think goals might still be the problem. They're going to have to sign a striker from somewhere. That's going to be the problem when they go down. And I think we are kind of assuming then that they will go down. Other teams in the bottom...
One of a spot up for grabs, isn't there?
Well, yeah, speaking of that spot, in recent times, Hull and Swansea have both won football matches, folks. I mean, in the same time, well, in a similar time period. It's shocking to see. They've both won.
Hull are rolling on.
Hull have won, 3 of the last 5? So they're looking all right. Swansea's first win in about 7, though, so they've really needed that to be in with a shout. It looks as if now, with 4 to go, it's going to be between the two of them. We've kind of talked about this before, but who do we think will go? Who do we think will stay, and why? I want some reasons why we think Hull or Swansea will stay up above the other one. And we'll come to you first, Jack.
Can you give me 2 minutes and just checking some stuff?
Okay, he needs to make sure he's got his stats ready before he
Okay,
comes
no. Okay, I can say what I'm going to say. I actually think Burnley might go down.
Yeah, do you know? I was going to say the same thing. There's a 5 point. I mean, we just said how there's maybe a gap for Middlesbrough to maybe make up. Right? There is not a big gap between. There's a 3 point gap between Burnley and Hull.
Well, hang on, I've just looked at Burnley's games.
Yeah,
they're
winnable.
So Burnley have got. You think Burnley will go down?
1 win in 11.
Yeah, but they've got Palace, West Brom, Bournemouth, and West Ham.
Palace at home has turned into a bit of a fortress as of late. Yeah. A few big teams struggling. Now, West Brom, I think we have to remember, West Brom are in 8th with a game in hand.
Yeah, but when they're home games, they're safe.
Yeah, I don't know if they will. Barton's been banned for 18 months.
Well,
they're going down then.
It's a big factor. I guess what I'm saying is Swansea play United, Everton, Sunderland, which is obviously a big game, and West Brom. So if we're saying West Brom are a tricky side, they also play Swansea, and Swansea have also got Everton and United. I don't know where those points come from. And not only that, by the way, Swansea are 5 points behind Burnley at this point. Well, I'm not including Burnley in this.
Well, I am.
Might as well include Leicester.
Yeah, do you think Leicester are going down, Jack?
I've been saying that for a while, but they've got a game in hand, so I think they can still win the league. Anyway, Ben, who are you thinking out of Hull and Swansea, since Burnley aren't allowed to be mentioned?
I think there's a very good chance that Swansea go down. I think there's the 2 points that Hull have got over them at the moment. That'll be kind of that. So yeah, I think it'll be Hull. Kino, what are you thinking on this?
I mean, I was going to go with Jack and say I'm worried about the kind of the lack of urgency that we see at Burnley. But I don't. I mean, you sort of.
Now for like the fixtures, you're thinking twice about that. Yeah.
But I just think that maybe Swansea will have a little bit more kind of sense of urgency about them.
I think Swansea are going to beat United this weekend.
I mean,
part of that is me just hoping they.
Someone's emailing in.
I want reasons why, Jack. Again,
Because I'm a Liverpool fan, and I need United to bottle it so we get top 4.
I know it's a horrible situation at the moment.
Swansea.
Swansea, you think Swansea will drop?
Yeah, I kind of don't really like it because I like both Marco Silva and Paul Clement. I think they sort of have a good future.
Yeah.
Particularly Silva, who I think will do a bit of a Pochettino.
I will say this much then. I said there that I think Middlesbrough and Sunderland will both struggle next year. I think whoever goes down out of Hull and Swansea,
they'll be fine.
They'll have the best chance of coming back up. I don't think the squads are as big in terms of wages. I don't think they're going to lose as much. Like Swansea may well lose like a Sigurdsson, which is kind of to be expected. But outside of that, I don't think they'll lose too many players. And I think the same goes for Hull. From the team that goes down, there aren't too many that you cherry pick. You probably would have said Snodgrass, but of course he's already gone. So I don't think there'll be too much change. And I think Clement and Silva took these jobs at these teams, not with the intention of we're definitely staying up. This is I'm going to be a Premier League manager next year. They were brought in with the idea of if we go down, these are the right kind of managers to bring us back up. So I guess that's something we'll probably see. Right, let's change things up though. Let's talk about the title race then. And there was all sorts of games going on in midweek. We'll start again. We've kind of talked about Chelsea, but we'll go back again. They've beaten Southampton 4-2, and at this point, boys, in the season, it's looking more and more likely that with 5 to go, 4 points clear. We've said it before. We'll say it again. Can they be caught? Proudy.
I don't want to say no, just because I think there's going to be a slip up. I think there's a slip up in there with Chelsea.
They need 2 though.
We not use the word
twice.
slip.
Yeah, can we stop that? Yeah.
at this time of year, Jack and Ben get a bit
twitchy. It was
twitchy
like
when
3
you
years
talk
ago
about
this
slips.
week. I'm still upset. Okay.
I think it could be the game this weekend and Everton away. I think.
Yeah.
You can just see Lukaku, can't you? You can just see Lukaku thinking, "Oh, here we go."
The problem for Spurs is though. I mean, this game in particular, that there was a point where it kind of went to 2-1, 1-1. And when you were like, oh, there might be something here, kind of reminds me of the Palace game a little bit when they won at Stamford Bridge a few weeks ago. There are a few things from this game really that I kind of think have set Chelsea on the way to finishing this off. The first one was that obviously Costa scored. It was a good goal. His form has been vital to them. And it's sort of been this kind of run of form that he's had in the last 5 or 6 games, which has corresponded with them dropping, 6 or 7 points, and going from a 10-point lead to a 4-point lead. And so him getting that goal and just looking pretty good in this game is big. They had to, as Proudy just said, they've got to drop 2 sets of points. They've either got to lose one and maybe draw, or lose 2 or that kind of thing. This Everton game coming up at the weekend is really the only big hurdle they've got left. So if they get through that game, even if a point's okay for them at this stage, and
a point's a little bit. A point's not great for them. It would mean 1 loss, and Spurs would have them on goal difference if Spurs can win their remaining games.
You've got to say Spurs have got to win every game. That's the difference. Yeah. Chelsea don't have to win every game.
It's true, but Spurs have won 8 on the bounce.
Well, there is a stat that if Spurs, let's say that Spurs do win the title, or even if they go and win all the games to the end of the season, it will be like the best winning run, I think, only behind the Invincibles in Premier League history. It will be like 15.
There you go, Arsenal fans, something to enjoy.
I will say now that obviously Spurs have got Arsenal and United to play in their remaining fixtures. I almost feel like if Spurs win all of their remaining games, is there an argument to say they deserve to win the league? Or
I'll give it them anyway.
I dare say anyone that finishes top of the league, if they win all their games, they may well win the league. I can't help but look at Chelsea's home matches to Middlesbrough, Watford and Sunderland and think there's 9. I mean, and then you've got Everton away. That is a tough game. On their day, Everton can beat pretty much anyone in this league. And also the other away game Chelsea have got, a little bit under the radar, Jack, you still think they're a good side, is West Brom. Pulis will quite enjoy.
On a Friday night.
On a Friday night as well. Pulis on a Friday night. My word. I mean,
that's nightmarish.
It'll bring out the waistcoat, I imagine. That'll be fun. That sounds really seedy, the way I've said it like that. It'll bring out the waistcoat.
The waistcoat.
Didn't mean it in that manner. So Chelsea get the win. And then obviously Spurs at Arsenal at the weekend. We'll come on to that a little bit later on. Of course,
Spurs replied though with a win.
Well, yeah, Spurs get again quite a straightforward win. Liverpool didn't make it look straightforward against Palace. Let's put it that way. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Christian. By the way, enjoyed that. Enjoyed that little show you put on. Oh, dear.
Palace, of course, the team that Liverpool slipped up against 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Not more on that subject.
Did you see the stat that Benteke has apparently scored more goals at Anfield for visiting
Yes,
teams
he
than
has,
Liverpool now?
Yeah, it's good. Isn't it?
I know. What player?
Lots of good stats.
I thought he'd flourish at Liverpool. He
Terrible stat.
Didn't really.
So
But no, you're
did
right.
I.
Spurs did fight back. Ericsson followed up. Ericsson was probably Spurs' best player, I would say, at the FA Cup semi-final, and then followed that up with another goal. Did he score, actually? Am I right in saying he scored?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And give
I've
Spurs
written in
every
the running
chance.
order. I've written in the running order. This is the part where I wax lyrical about how good Ericsson is.
Oh, please do.
I think. I mean, this game. I watched this in its entirety because I was doing nothing on Wednesday night. But this was Spurs found it really difficult in this game, and it's kind of one of those classic end of the season sort of matches. I won't refer to it again, but the kind of game where you can slip up against a team like Palace who are in good form.
Can we come up with alternatives? Can we all sit down and come up with an alternative for
They
slip
could
up?
fall over.
Fluff it.
Mess
is
it
what
up.
I'll go with.
Just anything other than slipjack. I'll take anything.
And Selhurst Park is obviously a difficult place to go.
Pills. Say pills. It's the reverse of slip. It's literally slip backwards. Pills will do. If pills did right
Spurs, for most of this game, though, Spurs found it really difficult. And this, however, was not for want of Ericsson. I think probably maybe Spurs fans will have watched a better individual performance from him this year. But while they were struggling, and Kane again was kind of poor, I thought he didn't really get much against Palace until Sacco went off injured, and best wishes to him.
Yeah. He could be out for a year, by the way. That's the thought.
Exactly.
No.
Is he all right?
Update today. It's just bruised ligaments and some strains. It's nothing too
is
bad.
it?
Good.
We can sell him in the summer, Ben.
Can
don't worry.
we? I've not seen that report. Thank you, Jack. That's the most
worries.
abusive. In a week.
That was the highlight of my day. Finding out he's not sick.
3 years from the slip.
Though.
That has cheered me right up. Thank you, Jack.
This is the thing. He'd had Harry Kane in his pocket though for most of that game, and he'd been really good for Palace since he joined it. And while the rest of the team was struggling, Ericsson was absolutely everywhere. It was a kind of you hear the sort of maybe in the last kind of week or so, as his form's been excellent, you hear the kind of Barcelona rumours and stuff. But it was almost an Iniesta-like performance. He was sort of playing in that, particularly in the second half, when Pochettino made some changes and moved him slightly further back into a midfield three, brought on Sissoko and Son, and played a little bit more offensively with the wingers. He was almost playing that sort of number 8 Iniesta role in the midfield three with Ali. And it was so impressive to watch. And the goal, I don't know what you guys think about Hennessy for that goal. Do you think he was maybe at fault there, Ben, ex-keeper?
I'm going to honestly say, Callum, I've not seen it, which is very rare for me. No.
See, I thought one of you... Jack, anyone? Did anyone see this game?
I don't think he was at fault.
Because the two players push across him and he hits it very quickly with no backlift.
I feel like as a keeper, it's always difficult to anticipate those ones. Like they are some of the trickiest ones, I think, when it just... Yeah, like you said, it kind of comes through. There's no backlift. Is it almost like the reverse of the Aguero one with the bad touch? It's one of those things where I feel like it just catches the keeper out because it's just a bit unusual.
Yeah, and that was the only real sort of flashpoint of this game, like incident.
I'm gonna watch it. Hold on.
It's real time.
Yeah.
I want a live commentary of.
Okay, so Ericsson's on it. He's about 30 yards out. Smashes it. Oh, it's got a little bit of bend on it. Is it deflected, boys? Do we know?
No.
So it's not deflected. Oh, he sees it from a long way away. I've got to say, lovely strike, but it's quite.
There are
far
two
out.
players across the front.
I think does it catch the turf just before it goes in?
There's a bit of dip. Yeah.
Oh, it does. It just sort of dips down. Difficult for a goalkeeper. That one may well have been offside from his defenders as well, but it comes from a long way out. I think as a goalkeeper, if you ask Wayne Hennessy tonight, boys, I think you'd probably say he should have done better. Goalkeeping expert Christopher Proud, have you seen this?
Oh, what, the goal?
Yeah.
No, unfortunately.
Right, well, let me give you this. Have a look. Let me,
pass around the evidence.
I'll just pop it in our Discord group chat. No, we're making sure. I say,
we're supposed to be professional.
Chris is an expert at goalkeeping matters. Chris, you've obviously done very well. I'm calling you Chris now. You've done very well at sort of amateur level. What do you?
Yeah, 2 cup finals, 1 semi.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I don't want to know about the semi. Yeah. Can you let us know what you think about this Ericsson strike and the goalkeeping more sort of notable?
I'm just seeing the strike from a reverse angle now.
No footwork, I'll say. A lack of footwork from Hennessy is the problem. Watching a few more replays are coming through. No footwork. I didn't think this would be getting as much discussion, boys.
Wayne Hennessy's never been mentioned so much on the show.
I was going to say, I think
I quite like this segment.
It's the strike that a goalkeeper hates because it seems to have caught him by surprise.
What,
I don't think he expected the shot like that quickly.
Before experience there, Proudy. Always a shot goalkeepers hate. What a target.
When does Ericsson ever shoot from range? I don't recall him ever shooting from range.
Gets free kicks there. We've done it now. Proudy, that's the sort of attitude that Hennessy had, and look what happened to him.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm not a Premier League goalkeeper.
Expect the unexpected.
Well, not yet. My barber says I could, but
your barber does he? Yeah. Who's your barber?
He was a scout.
He was Sir Alex Ferguson, Proudy. I'm not that impressed by that.
No, he was a Liverpool fan. We were talking when he was doing my hair the other day. I said, I'm a goalkeeper, and he said, I'll sign you up for Liverpool. I was
going to say,
let's not go that far.
He's such Minion Lane carriers this season.
Yeah.
Okay, coming away
that
from
won them the game.
Coming away from that Spurs goal, Eriksen's good goal. Let's talk about probably the most anticipated match towards the end of the season. It was Manchester City, the previous Premier League winners against Manchester United, record Premier League winners, and it was a game that was set to be one of the best in recent memory. Jack,
it was a bit shit, weren't it?
Yeah, it was. Keno,
yeah, it was a bit shit.
Proudy, thoughts?
Rushed home to watch it, regretted it. So
do we even talk about it at this point?
I've seen Europa League fixtures more entertaining.
Oh, that's a dig.
I was meant to be having a better evening than that, and my plans fell through. And I was like, it's okay. I've got the Manchester derby to fall back on. This will be great. And I forgot it was on. It was like it was really.
So
cool.
did some of the players, Keno.
There'll be a Europa League fixture next year.
This was the only thing about this game that we can really talk about was the headbutt, the supposed headbutt.
Yeah. So overall, we sort of had a little chat before the game. It wasn't even the sort of game that tactically was interesting. United sat back, City couldn't break it down. That was it. Like, there wasn't really much to it. United didn't look that good going forward either. I thought it said a lot that Martial was hooked in the second half. Didn't really do anything in the game. Rashford not only looked isolated, but looked out of the game for large portions.
Looked a bit tired, actually.
Yeah.
And there was one point where he sort of pulled up, and he kind of, for the first half, he looked like he was carrying a bit of a dead leg for about 10-15 minutes.
Yeah,
he didn't get going.
For me, it was. I mean, we've not seen it that much this year because he's been fit all season. But it was the sort of game that you think, if Zlatan plays this, that his ability to bring other players into play would have made all the difference, and the experience of a player like Zlatan Ibrahimovic would have been you can imagine him playing that game. United nicking it 1-0. I think there was sort of during the second half, City were pretty dominant for a long period, and I thought this is the sort of game that if Ibra's there, United nick this and then just hold on. But you're right, the only real talking point was the Fellaini headbutt, Keno. Was it a headbutt for you? For me, it's a bit of a headbutt. Sometimes it's not ever a headbutt, but that was a bit of a headbutt.
Yeah, and he's stupid, isn't he? Like, he was just stupid to do it right in front of... Was it Atkinson? I think the referee.
It was Atkinson, yeah.
Stupid to just do it literally about 10 yards away from the referee, and he had no choice. I think it was interesting what you're saying. We've had, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there have certainly been games in the Premier League this season where it's sort of been 0-0 draws, probably involving Mourinho, or a 1-1 and that kind of thing, that have been interesting games to watch. But really, one team needed to, both teams needed to win this game. I know it sounds silly, but a point doesn't really help either side because there's still now only 1 point between them in I think, in the kind of the race for the top four. So this isn't a game where you could have seen Mourinho going to the Etihad and just sort of shutting up shop to try and get a point, which would do him because they needed to win. And so it just kind of puts into perspective sort of how poor this game was, and the fact that both teams really should have been going to win it, and neither was sort of playing well enough to do that, or to even sort of really. I felt like there wasn't even a kind of a spell of pressure for either team, of sustained pressure where you felt that someone had taken the upper hand, or one player, had decided to really try and push the agenda. There are a few times, I think in the first half, where Kevin De Bruyne whipped some fantastic crosses in towards Aguero once where he tried to pull it back. There are a few moments like that from De Bruyne, but really, other than that, I couldn't really remember someone really trying to take the game and get the win, which is quite disappointing, really.
On that, like the way the game was so, I guess the phrase would be mundane. It was a very nothing game. Proudy, whose set of supporters will be most pleased with that, or whose team would be most pleased with that?
I mean, we saw at the end. I mean, the Man United fans were cheering. And
Well, I was going to say I include Liverpool and Arsenal in this.
Yeah.
So who's most pleased about this? I'll ask you in a minute as well, Jack. Who do you think though?
I think out of everyone, I think Arsenal and City are probably actually the happier, because United, I mean, it does depend on Europa League how the rest of their season goes, in my opinion. Mourinho will still go for the league, but I don't think that's his priority at the moment.
I hope not.
Yeah, City, I think it helps them because, drawing United means they haven't dropped out of the top four, and it's still in their hands because they still play the same amount of games as United, haven't they? But at one less than Liverpool. Is that true?
Yeah, so Liverpool have played 34 and have 66 points. City have played 33 with 65. United have played 33 with 64. So City are a point behind Liverpool with a game in hand. United are 2 points behind Liverpool with a game in hand. And Arsenal are 6 points behind Liverpool, but with 2 games in hand. Yeah. So if every team wins their games in hand, the table will go Chelsea, Spurs, City, United, Liverpool, and then Arsenal, depending on goal difference.
I think, and plus Arsenal have got United still. So, I mean, that also plays in. So that's why I think Arsenal would be the happier that it finishes a draw, because I don't think a win for either side would help them. And it wouldn't have helped Liverpool, because Liverpool now, I mean, with the 4 games they got left, massive games now, because they need to just stay above City. If anything, they just have to stay above City. Because it also becomes a problem if Liverpool drop out and Man United finish top 4 and win the Europa League, because Liverpool just don't qualify at all. They just qualify for the Europa League, which is like, on the basis of the season, like how recent it's gone, I think that would be a disappointment. Like at the start of the season, I think you would have taken 5th, would you?
I think I predicted as 5th or 6th. I think our squad is probably the 6th best squad on balance, and then. So I think I probably
it would still be disappointing if you've been like top 4 all season and to finish outside.
I think a lot of Liverpool fans have said, "Oh well, look where we were at Christmas," and I can't start like the amount of grief Arsenal fans get for them like sort of cheering, just being top of the table. Like I don't really care if Liverpool. Honestly, I couldn't give a shit if Liverpool are top at Christmas, because there's 38 games. I don't care where we are after 17. Doesn't really make a difference. Like sure, it's nice to live in the moment and enjoy the moment, but don't then use that. Sort of 33 games in and go.
You've got to be thinking about the big picture as well, Ben.
Well, I'm a very big picture sort of person, Keen. I prefer a big picture to a small picture. Jack, who do you think benefited the most out of this result?
Honestly, Liverpool. As a Liverpool fan, obviously this game I was watching this game.
Would a City win be better, Jack?
Well, yeah, I think a City win would have been better, but the second best result was probably a draw with a few injuries or suspensions. And I actually think Fellaini, of course, Manchester United captain this year at one point, being suspended, could be quite big actually in the context of it all, because I think he's a player who Mourinho's kind of shown quite a lot of trust in and can add a bit of steel in that midfield where Pogba's occasionally gone kind of walkies. I feel like, as you said, a City win would have probably been the better result. I feel like as a Liverpool fan, I just want the gap between ourselves and whoever is in 5th to be as big as possible. I don't really care where we finish in the top 4 at this point. I feel like it's just about getting that Champions League football if possible. I feel like it's a bit tricky for Liverpool because obviously throughout this kind of run-in towards the end of the season, it's been a bit awkward in the sense that we've always been playing more games than the opposition teams. And there was a stage, a few weeks ago where I think United were 3 points behind us with 6 points behind us with 2 games in hand. Whereas obviously we've slipped up a little bit. They've had a few slip-ups here and there.
You're doing it now. What is happening?
I'm sorry, the word slip is just on my mind, unfortunately.
So you think Liverpool have come out of that not too bad? I actually agree with Brady. I think Arsenal probably most happy. They know now if they win all their games, then they'll be right in there. And like I say, a huge weekend coming up. We will talk about the weekend coming up very briefly after this short message.
If you want to subscribe to Proudy's YouTube channel, you can find it in the... Oh, actually, I don't know what the link is.
I'm enjoying this promotion. Keep this going. Yeah. We'll use this.
Yeah, this will be the advert.
Yeah, you can...
what videos do you make?
I make Football Manager videos and the odd FIFA video.
How many videos can we expect a month?
4.
That's ambitious.
So if you want to subscribe to Proudy, what's the link?
I don't know what the link is. Load of numbers and letters, but I'm sure if you message me on Twitter, like you can follow me on Twitter, I'll give you the link.
Unbelievable.
Cheers. Right, and
I can't believe this.
We'll lead straight in then to what's going on.
Sorry,
Dear
I'm just
me.
shaking my head.
I mean, I gave him every opportunity. He's completely blew it. Huge weekend of football this weekend. Then Everton will play Chelsea at Goodison Park, and we touched on it a little bit before. We'll just go for some predictions, shall we? How do we think this game's going to go? Keno,
Proudy, that was the audio equivalent of that gif of you trying to pop to get the ball in the big golf hole.
Proudly trying to hold on to a plug. That was interesting.
I feel like there's an obscure reference here, which Mia and the viewers just don't know. Can someone?
Oh no, they've seen.
There's a gif
They've
of Proudly just not being able to hold a football, and it was a little bit like that. Anyway, Everton Chelsea.
I'm playing golf, football golf.
That was good as well. Everton. There's so many gifs of Proudly. Everton Chelsea. Keno. How do we see it going?
So Everton haven't lost at home this year,
Haven't they? Not at all.
No, not in 2017.
Oh, okay, this year. Sorry, I think.
Not this season, but in 2017, I think they've definitely not lost. They may have won every
I
game.
mean, if you're wrong, the viewers, the listeners.
Yeah, I'm going out there. So with that in mind, you'd have to say that it's likely that maybe Chelsea will at least draw, or a point may happen.
Everton have won every league game.
That's fine, great.
They lost in the FA Cup to Leicester. That's it.
Yeah, no worries. So, and obviously this is the one where everyone thinks that they're going to slip up. As I said before, I don't think Conte will play with a point in mind, but I think if they are say it's 1-1 or something, because it's unlikely, again, going on the statistics again, they haven't kept a clean sheet in a long time. So it's likely that both teams are going to score in this game. And I think if it's sort of like a 1-1 or something in the second half, I don't think Chelsea will go all out for the win and maybe leave themselves susceptible to a counter-attack from Barkley and Lukaku, for instance. So I think it will be a really, really tight game. And I'm not sure Everton will have enough to beat Chelsea. So I think it'll be a draw.
I was going to say, do you think Chelsea would settle for a point at the end of this game?
No, but I know that's what I'm saying. I don't think Conte is going to send them out to try and get a point.
But if they get a point, would he kind of go? It could have been worse, or will he? Or, yes, I guess it kind of depends on the game, doesn't it? Depends on how it goes down.
But the way I could see this game going, with Everton playing so well as they are at home and Lukaku in fantastic form, I could see them having a spell where they really do have Chelsea under the cosh. And if that does happen, Conte may think, right, it's not worth it. We'll try and take the point here and play a little bit more negatively.
All right.
So I think the draw's likely.
So you think it'll be a draw, Jack? Just briefly.
Score draw.
3-1 Everton.
3-1 Everton. Wow, that's bold. I like it. Proudy?
The same fixture last year, it was 3-1, and Naismith scored a hat-trick.
You sound very much like Jack there, Proudy. That was amazing.
Sorry, I didn't get a chance
that was weird, wasn't
I
it?
just feel like if you're I feel like when we're giving score predictions and stuff, like if you give the correct prediction as I just have...
The correct prediction.
Wait, how do you know it's going to finish 3-1 yet?
You'll see.
Fam.
Well, this prediction is awkward.
I'm going to say 3-2 Chelsea.
So we've got a draw, a Chelsea win, and a Everton win.
One of us is going to be right.
I'm going to come out and say it'll be a absolute barnstorming 3-3 draw. I think it'll be good. I think Lukaku and Costa hat-tricks, 2 hat-tricks in a match. I can't for it. That'll be good. Even if it's not those 2 players, that's my prediction. 2 hat-tricks in a match. I think it'll be
6-0.
It'll be closely contested. I feel like Everton's season. I don't want to say Everton's season's kind of over, but Everton's season's a little bit over. They've played 34 games. Like, you consider the teams above them have all got games in hand on them. They're not going to finish.
A huge gap.
They're not going to finish any lower than 7th. Like, it's going to be very difficult for them to do that. They're 12 points clear of West Brom. So you've got to figure that Everton are just kind of in 7th, not got that much to play for. Can put a little bit of pressure on maybe Arsenal. That's kind of it, though. There's not much else for them. So I think a draw. Not that that'll make them try any less, but yeah. The other big game. This is probably the biggest game of the weekend for me. Everton Chelsea's big, but this is bigger. Spurs Arsenal. And we'll go in reverse order, shall we? We'll start with Proudy.
I think.
This is hard. This is
going
hard.
to be. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I think, in my opinion, yeah.
How do you see the game going? Who do you think will have the better of it?
I think Spurs will dominate the first half and get that goal through Dele Alli, I think.
What minute will that be?
31st minute.
Right,
31st minute. Yeah.
Who equalises for Arsenal?
Olivier Giroud off the bench in the 87th minute.
Lovely, thank you. They're very, very good. Jack?
Yeah.
Spurs 2-0.
Do you want to add any more? I'm getting you the opportunity.
No, I'm not allowed to add any more.
Okay, sorry. Callum, we'll come to you then, who I'm sure
You
will
want
add
me to
more.
add more?
You'll definitely add more. Go on.
I actually do agree with Jack. I think it will be a Spurs, not regulation win, but I think they'll win it fairly comfortably in the end.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you've both gone so sort of...
I think Wenger's going to play for it at the back, and it's not going to work.
And
Bold.
that is, again, I agree. I've said this twice in 30 seconds. I agree
Are you
again
feeling
with
okay?
Jack. Yeah, because I think...
What else could Jack
there's a
say that
danger-
Jakina will agree with? This is the new game we're going to play.
Aston Villa are the
Nothing-
best team
nothing
in the
else.
world.
Nothing else. No, because you're not being serious.
Is he not?
Arsenal will try and play that 3, and Spurs play that better. And if they sort of try and match them, I think that Spurs will come out on top, because in the key positions in that, sort of particularly fullbacks, I'm thinking they have the better players, also who are in better form.
Well,
they will
I'm pleased you
try.
mentioned that. We didn't talk about this before, Kino, but I did post something in the chat earlier, which was the BBC are running the combined 11. I'm just interested in what we all think on this. By the way, score prediction, I think Arsenal might nick it 2-1. But I've been very complimentary of Arsenal in this episode. I don't know how I feel about it. How many Arsenal players get in the Spurs 11? Let's assume, by the way, that Spurs is 11, and we'll just sort of create one, and then you fill in the gaps, boys. So the Spurs 11 I'm picking would be Lloris, Walker, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Rose, and then you've got Dyer sat in front with Dembele and Wanyama, we'll say, with Ali ahead, with Son and Eriksen, Kane and Eriksen, just playing in sort of a front 3. I shouldn't have gone 4-1-2-1-2. That was a mistake. But the regular lineup, how many Arsenal players get in? Aside from Alexis Sanchez, who I think we'd probably all agree slots in there quite nicely. Open floor.
Czech ahead of Lloris.
Really?
I know. I'd take Czech.
I don't.
I mean,
agree
is
with
this a
Jack
joke,
on this.
or is this just like...
No,
I thought it was
actually,
It's a joke.
I thought there was going to be a punchline there or something.
I don't think Lloris has been that great this year. If I'm honest,
Yeah, but he's a better goalkeeper than Czech.
I mean, that's an opinion, not a fact.
Oh, he's got you there, Rowdy. Fight back with that one. No, Spurs have got the lowest goals conceded in the league.
Yeah, but I think if you look at the actual defence, I think Spurs' defence is fundamentally better in front of their goalkeeper.
Didn't they have that last season as well?
I'd be curious to look at the save stats, because I actually don't think Lloris has been playing that well this year.
I guess what drbenji@gmail.com for anyone that's interested.
I mean, I've just thrown myself under the bus there, haven't I? But I don't want to find some stats to back
That's all
that
right,
up.
Jack. You're taking,
What I will
you're
say
taking
is
the hit next week.
I feel like for the last few years, Lloris has been seen as this like irreplaceable beacon in the Spurs side, and I think there's been a few occasions this year where he has made mistakes and he has
fair.
goals.
Well, most goalkeepers do that, but he's more solid than...
Speaking from experience.
Yeah, a lot of goalkeepers. I mean, Lloris is only 30 as well, so he should be at his peak.
Is he? I thought he was a little bit younger than that. So, check, Jack. I'm just gonna keep going with Jack here. Who else do you think would oust a Spurs player from the Arsenal team? Anyone else? So far, you've got Czech and Sanchez.
Probably not. No.
That's like. Does anyone else want to throw any in there? I wouldn't personally.
I think you could. Maybe, well, he's not fit.
You can make a case for Ozil. Let's not pretend.
I was going to...
yes.
No, actually, no, you've
yeah.
got Sanchez in there.
I think you can make a case for Ozil, and also maybe Cazorla in a sort of central midfield role when fit, if he's playing well.
Yeah, I'd go along with that.
Because he offers something a little bit different to a Wanyama or Dembele, in my view.
But
but that's it.
Sorry, no, I've just went in there. Koscielny and Mustafi. I just want to go through the back line. Koscielny and Mustafi, we both don't think would get in ahead of Vertonghen and
not
Alderweireld.
over Alderweireld.
And then Bellerin and Monreal. We wouldn't take over Rose and Walker.
Possibly Bellerin, but he's been playing very poorly this year.
Yeah, he's had an indifferent year. And then, so as we come further forward, then you put Cazorla ahead of maybe him and Dembele are similar in style, maybe, but not in terms of what they actually offer on a pitch. It's kind of strange. But they're both sort of creative.
It's 50-50. The point is, it's that he's about the only one who really I would.
So we wouldn't take like a Walcott or a Chamberlain or a Xhaka.
I was going to say, like at a stretch, Welbeck, but I was only thinking like on the left side here of that Tottenham team. But I mean, then Sanchez would play there, wouldn't he?
A difference 2 years, mate. You asked this question 2 years ago. I bet there's a lot of Arsenal players that would have made it into a Spurs team, and now we sit here 2 years on, And as things stand, of course,
Danny Rose, as players like that. For
well,
sure,
yeah,
who've just come on
there's a
loads.
14-point gap. Of course, again, Arsenal do have a game in hand, but even then, let's say they win it. There's a 13-point gap. I mean, by the end of the weekend, it could be a 17-point gap between Spurs and Arsenal in Spurs' favour. And obviously, it was the narrative for so long, wasn't it? It was who finishes higher out of Spurs and Arsenal. Well,
St. Tottering.
it's no doubt going to be Spurs this year. And of course, this doesn't define Spurs as the better club overall or whatever. I'm not interested in that argument, really. But the impact that Pochettino's had on Spurs and the way that they've become this force in the league, and sort of the same way that Arsenal have dropped off in more recent years, they've been sustaining that fourth place, but they've also been. I feel like they've been in the Champions League a little bit on sort of life support, and every time they get into the Champions League, they never go much further than a quarter-final, or ever much further than a quarter-final. So I do find that interesting, gentlemen. I have to say that Spurs have leapfrogged Arsenal to such a degree. Shall we wrap things up there, or has anyone got any other business?
I have found some stats on Wolves versus Czech.
Here we go.
Let's wrap it up.
I won't bore people with them, but Czech has more clean sheets.
Czech has more clean sheets.
He does indeed.
That's somewhat surprising.
And he's played less games.
Okay,
But
thank you
his
for that,
saves
Jack.
per goal is actually lower,
Again,
percentage-wise.
gmail.com for anyone that wants to come up.
Someone's now going to just quote the article,
Lloris is
which I
better.
found.
I'm agree with
What
that.
Jack's done there is Jack has made a claim with no stats and then has gone and found the stats that support his unfounded claim.
Well, no, because I would concede the stats that go both ways. I just don't think it's like as cut and dry as to say Czech isn't as good as. I feel like with goalkeepers, like you can look at stats all you want, but actually it doesn't really provide any context in terms of the players in front of them. What I would say is the stats that they do have are very close and similar, and so I don't think it's as cut and dry as you guys seem to think it is.
I think, from my perspective, Lloris is a much better goalkeeper than Petr Cech currently.
Would Lloris have stopped Aguero in the semi-final?
It's hard to say, Proudy.
I think he would, so he's better.
Right.
So
There we are then. And that's that. If you've enjoyed this week's show, ForTheFansShow.com, where all our available links are there, YouTube, Twitter, all the rest of it at ForTheFansShow on Twitter, ForTheFansShow, youtube.com/ForTheFansShow on YouTube. If you've enjoyed this week's show, then do let us know on Twitter. Leave a rating on the podcast. Do you know what, boys? I've not checked. Have I got time while someone else waffles? Jack, do you want to tell us more about Jack?
No,
we'll leave it for next week, Ben. But go and leave a review.
No, but I've
rate
promised,
us on
though.
iTunes. Subscribe, rate.
You lied,
on
Ben.
iTunes.
What?
We'll do it next
Well,
week.
no, I
Ben.
promised though, so I feel like I've got to do it.
This is only in a couple of days.
Yeah, but look, if you're listening today, then I feel like you've come for this particular bit of the show. A lot of people.
They've gone.
There's going to be nobody's left to review.
There was
now.
no
There's
feature.
still- there's
Right.
gonna be
Well,
nothing.
look, think how much effort I'm putting in to read a review. If there's no reviews, I'm going to be fuming.
I'm still listening.
Most recent reviews, we've got loads actually. We've got 4. See, this was well worth
we?
it.
Oh,
Well, now I'm opening out of curiosity.
Right, Ryan has left one absolute class, 10 out of 10. Thank you very much, Ryan. Appreciate that. My favourite
Is there
football
nothing
podcast.
controversial?
Yeah, we'll keep going. Ben, Jack, Proudy, and even Keno. You never failed to.
How have I been placed above Keno? I've only been here for 4
he
weeks.
just
You
arrived.
never fail to entertain, and I enjoy every single podcast. I can even, as a
Blues fan.
Birmingham fan.
Oh, there it is. That's it. I could smell it. I knew it was.
Even as a Birmingham fan, find a way to enjoy Keno. Anyhow,
What's his name?
Charla.
Gabby Agbonor, mate.
Anyhow, keep up the fantastic
Enough said.
work you do. Another one from I don't know how to say that, but Super Stuffy Foot. Always fun to listen to. Great roundup of the week's football. Never fails to disappoint. And then Saul has left a comment which just says, "Fam, this is mad blood." I think that's probably for Jack. So thank you so much for the reviews. We'll read some more reviews out next week. This was the best part of the show.
They've got it. We need reviews though, so you got to do it.
Yeah, please do leave ratings and reviews for us so we can read them out on
Any
the show.
more baiting?
Anyone who
blue
stumbles
noses wanna
across
put
this
it in there?
podcast must be well confused when they listen to a show and go, it has 5-star rating out of 5 and there's 250
Oi.
reviews. Who's liking this? Because I don't know the answer. And I'm
How's
on
that
the podcast.
confusing?
Less of that.
The end there.
We're a great show. We love with care from myself for the fans. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye. Jack, you've undersold us there, haven't you? Oh, goodness.